It's me! Welcome to episode 210 of The Willow Show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Now, today, I wanted to talk about if you had one thing that you could do differently. If you had a time machine, what would you do differently? Um, as far as wrestling goes. See, I try not to have regrets. I just try and be happy with the way things worked out. Whatever happened was meant to happen. But obviously, looking back, there's a lot of things that I would have done differently had I known what the outcomes would have been, or I would have been harder on myself and I would have went for things more and not been so shy. There's so many, really, like if I look at it, but I don't want to be too hard on myself. But if you had to just pick one thing to do differently, what would it have been? Like, there's so many for me. I would have, like when I started out with the Highlanders, they were going everywhere. I would have begged them to let me come and paid them some gas money just to be around the locker rooms and get to know the people they knew and been closer with them. But I was like, oh, I'm already a wrestler. I'm 19 years old now, and I've done 5 matches, so I'm living the dream. But I just I was always too. I didn't want to ever ask anybody for anyone, and I didn't want to be at a wrestling show if I wasn't invited to be there. But I found out later when I would do Chuck the Butcher Sims would have shows, and I would tag along with people, and I ended up getting a lot of matches from that. But I definitely would have just tried to do everything to suck up and just be the third wheel to the Highlanders. And man, they did a lot of stuff, and I could have gotten a lot of good people I could communicate with and network and whatnot. Sean Spears started going to Eric Young's WrestlePlex, and I was working an afternoons job, so I couldn't go with them. I should have just rearranged it around somehow, and I should have gone with them. And then, I mean, those are two of the bigger things. I should have really tried to make a go at Mexico. I really like doing the tours with Thorne and Ernie Todd, but like when I had a mortgage to pay, it wasn't the best idea, so I should have just figured out a way to keep going on the tours. I would have got so many more matches than you would get just doing weekend shows. And then there's so many little things, like if you pick apart matches, oh, I would have done this differently, I would have done that. Like a lot of times that I embarrassed myself or had a poor showing, obviously I would do that over. I remember one time when we were doing the whole GLCW versus PWA feud, and I had a match against Quinton Valentino earlier. I think it was opening contest, and it was a really good match, and he was very happy with it. And then at the end, in the main event, everyone had to go out, and it was like a big brawl between everybody who's on the roster. And so we paired off against each other, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I like put him in a headlock, and I was giving him these crappy punches, and then he was like, "What the hell were you doing out there after?" And I'm just like, oh, "I'm so sorry." Like I just hung my head in shame, and I mean, pretty much every match I have, I'm like, "Oh, I could have done this different, could have done that different," but I don't want to have regrets. I think the thing I would have done differently if I only had one thing to choose from is I was contemplating going to Shawn Michaels Wrestling School or Terry Funk's school. I think maybe I would have done it just knowing what ended up happening at the Hart Brothers school that I went to. And I mean, I have no regrets. I had a great time there. I got trained really well. I met a lot of people that I consider friends to this day, and everything worked out, I guess, the way it was supposed to. But I'm just, man, if I would have been in that class with Daniel Bryan and Brian Kendrick, things probably could have been a lot different for me. So I guess I would just go back to the very beginning, but it was just too convenient. Ike Shaw lied to me and said, "Oh, we got a resort here. You can live here on campus. You're in Canada, so you can work legally." It just, I think it was meant to be for me to get sucked in there. But I mean, I got a lot of good wrestling out of it. But man, I would love to hear from you guys. If you could just pick one thing, only one thing that you would change about your wrestling career, what would it be? And as a fan, also, is there something that maybe you could change differently? Like you had a chance to go to this show, or maybe when you were younger you wanted to train to be a wrestler, and now it's too late. Maybe you're too gray in the hair now, or whatnot. Like, so tell me what it is. If you could pick one thing to do differently that has to do with wrestling, what would it be? Because as always on the Willow Show, like, or you get a leg drop, comment, or you get a clothesline, subscribe or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba.